So this is Naco where I entered, and simply say, let us look outside Eurozone Greece and try to find something. And I have 4 answers. Let us take the simplest one first. You know, each country has a 12-mile zone, and on top of that, a 200 miles EEZ, exclusive economic zone. But the miles we are talking about are not English miles, they are nautical miles. They are not 1609 meters, but 1852 meters. But those are details. Inside that EEZ, there is not the sensational news that enormous gas reserves have been found. Now, that may make Greece not only self-sufficient, but also with a surplus to export. But that will not be available, as far as I understand, inside the 3 years limit we are talking about. The Grexit, no, not Grexit, I mean the agreement talked about 3 years. So we put that one aside, and then we look at history and we pay attention to some very important facts. Fact number 1. Greece, as Orthodox Christianity, is on the Orthodox side of a basic fault line in Europe, which is 1,600 years old, from the 395 split between the Western and Eastern Roman Empire, in a Catholic part that very soon collapsed. In 476 it was already fini, and in came the Middle Ages, dark or not. But the other part, the Orthodox part, it was run from Constantinople in the name of the Constantine, Emperor the Great, who in a sense, he was not the engineer, the 325 Nicaean approach to Christianity, but in his name, and that lasted 1,000 years. You see, from 395 to 1453, 1,058 years, quite something. What happened in 1453 was, of course, that Constantinople became Istanbul, and Greece became a part, that took some time before that materialized, of the Ottoman or Osmanic Empire. That lasted not that long, less than 400 years. Greece was under Turkey, Istanbul being in Turkey, the Ottoman Empire being run from Turkey, fought for its independence, which it got in 1830. But here comes, of course, the point. This lands Greece with very intimate, very deep connections to the Orthodox world, with that other Christianity and other alphabets. As we know, the Cyrillic alphabet that they use in Russia, and also used slightly changed in Serbia, that is taken from the Greek alphabet by the 2 apostles, Kyrillos and Methodios. So you can say that quite a lot of the Russian part of it actually comes from Greek Orthodoxy.
What you are saying here actually is to really pay attention to how these civilizations actually conceive of reality and how their semantic reality is even constructed, in a sense. That there's a linkage there.
Precisely. But you know, for them, of course, after 1830 and their independence, no doubt they wanted to become part of Western Europe, just like they started off. But now what I'm saying is that instead of regarding them as a little tail hanging at the end of the European Union, accounting for 2% of the gross regional product, the European product, European Union product, or the European Eurozone product, to be more correct, 2%, which is not very much. Instead of that, time has come for Greece to see itself as being a very central part of the world, with a link very clearly to the European Union through membership and the Euro, with a link to the enormous Orthodox Christianity territory spanned by Russia, and with a link to the enormous Islamic territory via Turkey. Now, if you go a little bit further, you find China. The link to China is indirect, but also direct. China uses Pireo as the harbor, which is the entry port for Chinese products coming that way into Europe. It competes from their point of view with the obvious ports, which would be Rotterdam and Antwerp, and maybe Bremen. There are ports up in the north, if you will. In East Sea, not so much, but in North Sea. Okay, I can understand that China has done that, but that means that China has a solid foot in the center of Greek economy already. Now, if you wrap up what we are talking about here, we are talking about Orthodox Russia. We are talking about the Islamic world, most of it being in Asia. And there is a part in Africa, of course, but most of it being in West Asia, in Central Asia, in Southeast Asia, and some of it in East Asia. If you look at all of that and you add China, these parts come together today in something they are constructing called Eurasia. Sometimes they call it the Eurasian Union. And it has an infrastructure, not in the Marxist sense of means and mode of production and ownership of means of production and things like that, but in the simple sense of transportation and communication. And if there is any Marxist element in Chinese Communist Party's thinking, I don't think there is much. It is neither communist nor actually a party, but very, very Chinese, no doubt about that. If there is something, they have certainly understood the meaning of the word infrastructure by constructing enormous amount of railroads and roads and so on. We know about that. Okay, imagine now that Greece doesn't turn away from Europe, and in no way arguing that. But it opens to Russia, what Russia is more than willing to give, for gas.
For gas, for natural resources.
Gas and oil, natural resources. Russia has it. I think they can agree on the terms. And they might even be in a position where Russian gas could reach other parts of Europe through Greece. An interesting point. Now, much more logical would be through Ukraine, but there they have some problems that are well known. We don't open for that now. Natural resources from Russia. Now, in the background, what would Russia ask in return? Well, you can imagine that next time the issue comes up, having been given the agreement, Greece will not say yes to prolonging the sanctions against Russia for Ukraine. Can you imagine? But we don't have to look into that. We are just saying here the economic resource that could come. What could come from China, to start with that? Well, I'm thinking of a couple of million tourists, well endowed, coming from China, via Silk Road, Silk Railroad, Silk Plains, Silk Lanes, whatever.
The new geopolitics.
Precisely. Coming dressed up in silk. Well endowed, these Chinese. They could more than fill the Greek capacity for tourism, and they would revive the tourist sector. As has been pointed out, the problem with the tourist sector is not cancellations. The problem is that Greek society has been destroyed. In other words, all the agencies, the shops, and whatever you have that help to supply the industry, including the tourists themselves, are bankrupt. They're closed. No, a substantial amount of Chinese could revive that. What could they get from the Muslim part? Now it's getting sticky and problematic. And I would say, I think the best thing they could get is the best thing the Islamic world has to offer to non-Muslims.
Hold on,
That is
Johan.
Islamic.
Please come again. That is?
The best thing the Islamic world can offer to non-Muslims, and that is Islamic banking.